How's it going, everyone? My name is Lone Vault Wanderer, and welcome back to BioShock: The Definitive Story, the series where we explore the main story of the original BioShock game. Last time, we discussed the levels of Neptune's Bounty and Smuggler's Hideout, and you can find that video linked in the description below. Today, we will cover Arcadia, Farmer's Market, and Fort Frolic. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy BioShock: The Definitive Story, Part 4. After traversing through Smuggler's Hideout, Jack finds his way to Arcadia. Arcadia is one of the most important locations in Rapture, being home to photosynthesizing plant life and trees that produce significant amounts of the entire city's oxygen supply. On arrival, Atlas makes it very clear to Jack that he must go to the bathysphere in Rolling Hills in order to kill Ryan, especially after what he did to Atlas's family. Walking through Arcadia, it's very easy to understand why the locale became such an attraction for Rapture's citizens. Not only is it filled with lush vegetation, plant life, flowers, forests, and beautiful lighting, but it also houses a number of scenic areas, such as the Tea Garden, Tree Farm, Rolling Hills, and Waterfall Grotto. But due to Rapture's downfall, much of Arcadia has fallen into disrepair, with overgrowth and flooding becoming a common sight. Continuing on, Jack encounters the very first Houdini splicer, a unique splicer that can turn invisible and attack using a fire-based plasmid. Arcadia is also home to the very first U-Invent, a machine that allows Jack to use scrap materials throughout Rapture to craft new items such as ammunition, gene tonics, and automatic hack tools. Soon after, Jack sees numerous posters and propaganda of Atlas across Arcadia, upon which Atlas tells Jack the following.
Hear things about me, see my name about, think what you will. There was a time I cared about politics, but it's just an excuse men use to kill one another. I'm done with all that. I just want to see the sunlight again.
As Jack nears closer to Rolling Hills, a strange substance suddenly fills the air, seemingly killing the trees and plant life inside Arcadia. Atlas tells Jack that Ryan must have pumped a toxic gas into the air. This is a dire situation, given, as mentioned before, Arcadia's trees and plants supply a significant amount of Rapture's oxygen, so no trees means no oxygen. An automatic shutdown is then initiated, with Arcadia's doors closing shut to preserve the remaining oxygen. Quickly, Atlas tells Jack to head to Julie Langford, as she's the creator of the forests inside Arcadia and thus will likely want to save her trees. Prior to her time in Rapture, Julie Langford was a botanist and professor at the University of California, Berkeley. She was so renowned for her work that she even attracted the attention of the US government and assisted with defoliation projects throughout World War II against the Japanese. But like with many others who headed to Rapture, in 1949 she suddenly disappeared on the surface world. When inside the underwater city, Langford's skills and expertise as a botanist were put straight to work, with her creating Rapture's vacation land, Arcadia. Langford was responsible for growing and maintaining the lush vegetation, gardens, forests, flowers, and other plant life inside the locale. But how was Langford able to achieve such a feat so deep under the water? Well, thanks to Adam, of course. It provided the ingredients necessary to truly allow trees and plant life to grow. Arcadia had numerous benefits. For one, it was a big attraction thanks to its beauty and visual distinctiveness when compared to other areas of Rapture. Arcadia was once a free park for Rapture citizens to enjoy, but eventually Ryan closed Arcadia to all but those who were willing to pay. Langford was critical of Ryan for this decision, stating that he turned a walk in the woods into a luxury, but then conceded that because he paid her salary, there was not much she could do about it. The second benefit of Arcadia was, as mentioned before, the fact that it housed oxygen-producing forests and plant life. It is implied that, initially, Rapture's source of oxygen was supplied only by Frank Fontaine and a few others, so the citizens of Rapture had to actually pay for the pleasure of just being able to breathe the oxygen, which included Langford and all those others in Arcadia. So Langford got to thinking, they were shelling out all of this money for oxygen, but Arcadia had photosynthesizing trees, so why not just capture the oxygen produced to provide Arcadia with its own supply? And well, that's what they did. And naturally, being a purely capitalist society, Langford also told Ryan that they could also sell the extra oxygen produced to the rest of the city and undercut the other suppliers, thereby boosting Arcadia's profits. As Rapture's civil war was occurring and citizens became more spliced up, Langford continued her research into the uses of Atom for botanical purposes. Her largest breakthrough here was the Lazarus vector. The Lazarus vector was a chemical solution capable of bringing dead trees and plants back to life, which truly would have helped maintain Arcadia's forests for years to come. But her research into the vector was delayed thanks to constant lockdowns in Rapture and interferences by a cult known as the Saturnine. So even by the time that Jack himself meets Langford, she hasn't quite made the breakthrough into the vector just yet. To do so, Langford discovered that she needed a crucial ingredient, a sample of Rosa gallica, or rose for short. But to obtain one, she obviously needed to grow some roses, which she began to do inside of Arcadia's waterfall grotto. But the rose bushes needed some time to bloom, and Langford couldn't wait around due to another lockdown in Rapture. And as a result, she was forced to secure herself inside her laboratories while the roses grew. This is where Jack meets Langford. Upon Jack reaching Langford, she quickly assumes that Ryan must be behind the death of her trees and asks Jack to get a sample of the Rosa gallica so that she can concoct a solution. Jack does so, finding the sample, simply titled Rose, inside of the waterfall grotto. Arriving back at Langford's research laboratories, she instructs Jack to put the bud sample inside the pneumatic tube, upon which Langford allows Jack entry into the laboratory. However, when Jack reaches Langford herself in person, and before she can reverse the damage done to her trees, Ryan takes it upon himself to remind Langford who is really in charge.
Julie, we made a business deal, you and I, did we not? Money changed hands. Let me read to you from the agreement. Section 3, subsection 4.
Mr. Ryan.
Ryan Industries maintains exclusive rights to the creation, use, and exploitation of the Lazarus vector. Ownership is civilization.
Wait! No! Please!
Without it, we're back in the swamp.
Mr. Ryan!
With Langford dead, it is up to Jack to save Arcadia's forests. To do so, he must create the Lazarus vector, and audio logs inside of Langford's office reveal what exactly the vector is, one of which is accessible thanks to the code written on the window by Langford as she died. However, Jack needs to gather together ingredients in order to create the vector, which include distilled water, chlorophyll, and honeybee enzymes. By this stage, it's likely Jack already has chlorophyll, so to obtain the other ingredients, Atlas informs Jack to head to Farmer's Market, and that's what he does. Farmer's Market is a rather short endeavor for Jack. First up, he must obtain the bee enzymes, and an audio log reveals that these can be obtained from beehives housed within Silverwing Apiary. But to access the beehives, Jack must first disperse the many bees present by releasing a phantomatic smoke into the room, which temporarily prevents the bees from attacking. Next up is distilled water, and thanks to the help of another audio log, Jack discovers that the wine produced in Worley Winery was diluted with distilled water, so to the winery he departs. After fighting a few splices, Jack obtains all the distilled water necessary to create the Lazarus vector. At this stage, Atlas will tell Jack to head towards a nearby crafting station to finally create the Lazarus vector. Once done, Jack is then instructed to head back to Langford's office and drop the Lazarus vector into the central control. But as usual, the path through Arcadia is not going to be that easy, with Ryan sending many security bots after Jack. But eventually, he is back in Langford's office and places the vector inside of the central misting control. However, the process will take some time, and Ryan sends even more splices to attack the lab. But like always, Jack manages to kill all the splices, and eventually, the Lazarus vector can be released throughout Arcadia, which is successful in reviving the once dead trees and plant life. Rapture's main supply of oxygen is now saved, so Atlas then instructs Jack to head to the bathysphere in Rolling Hills to finally get to Andrew Ryan. But before reaching said bathysphere, Jack is contacted by Ryan yet again.
Why are you so resistant to the traditional methods of separating a man from his soul? You're not CIA, are you? You belong to Atlas, the one roach I can't seem to exterminate. Don't worry. I just need time to find the proper poison.
Arriving in Fort Frolic, Jack attempts to head to another bathysphere that will allow him entry to Hephaestus and bring him one step closer to Andrew Ryan. However, Atlas tells Jack that Ryan gave the keys of Fort Frolic over to one Sander Cohen. Very quickly, Sander makes his presence known, taking complete control over Jack's radio communications and submerging the bathysphere he was intending to use. Jack's only option now is to seek out Sander Cohen and play along with his games. After entering Fort Frolic's meeting hall, Cohen reveals that in order to access the bathysphere, Jack's worthiness must be tested. This first involves heading to the musical theater and being greeted by the following artistic scene.
Da 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 da! Presto, presto! No, no!
I'm trying. Please.
Once again, young Fitzpatrick. Da 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 da! No!
Oh God, you sick fuck, let me out of there!
Come down now, little more. Life, death. The burden of the artist is to capture.
Being the main focus for this level, it is only right that we ask, who is Sander Cohen? Sander Cohen is an artist in many different fields: playwriting, composing, sculpting, and poetry. He hails from New York City and was celebrated for his work. Before Rapture, Ryan was already a huge fan of Cohen, and the two were actually close friends, which is why Cohen bought into Ryan's ideals so easily and subsequently followed him to Rapture. But this was also partly due to the fact that Cohen became disenfranchised with his artistic endeavors in New York. He started to believe that his art was being constrained by the public, who had certain interests and tastes that didn't necessarily align with Cohen's own passions. Cohen believed he often had to stoop to the public in order to appease them. So, Rapture became an opportunity for Cohen to let his mind run wild and pursue the art he always wanted to pursue. And with that, Cohen accepted Ryan's personal invitation into the city. Cohen resided in Fort Frolic and quickly became a prominent figurehead in Rapture's artistic scene. He owned art galleries, a nightclub, created music, and even produced theatrical shows. Ryan continued to be a large supporter of Cohen, even commissioning him to write Rapture's anthem, Rise, Rapture, Rise. But even all of Cohen's successes could not survive Rapture's civil war. Cohen was forced to close Fort Frolic, which caused him to become quite isolated. Cohen stated in an audio log that Rapture was going to hell because of Atlas and his men, which he referred to as the Doubters. Throughout all of this, Cohen still remained affiliated with Ryan and understood why Ryan had to take the actions he did during the war, including killing and making people disappear. Although, Cohen was not a fan of the Little Sisters, and even though Ryan granted Cohen complete control over Fort Frolic, he arguably started to resent Ryan a little bit too. He exclaims in an audio log that he could have been the toast of Broadway and the talk of Hollywood, but instead he followed Ryan to Rapture. He did this so he could practice his art freely in front of audiences that would appreciate his work. But now he waits for an audience that doesn't ever come, again due to Rapture's civil war. All of these events, combined with Cohen's Adam abuse, slowly drove him insane. After murdering the pianist, Kyle Fitzpatrick, Cohen instructs Jack to take a photo of his dead body and place the photograph onto Cohen's masterpiece in the atrium. The masterpiece contains several empty photograph slots, and if Jack completes them all, Cohen will send him to Ryan. Cohen gifts Jack a crossbow and then informs him that he must kill 3 other people in Fort Frolic, take photos of their corpses, and then place the photographs onto the masterpiece. Alongside Fitzpatrick, these other 3 were also once disciples of Cohen, but in Cohen's opinion, they all betrayed him in some way, so Cohen wants to exact revenge. First up is Martin Finnegan, aka the Iceman. He is an Ice Houdini splicer that was trapped when Cohen closed off Fort Frolic to the public. But Martin survived by scavenging numerous gene tonics and plasmids to become the Iceman, and he can now be found in the tunnel connecting the atrium to Poseidon Plaza. When Jack heads there to kill him, he is frozen still, only to wake up later confronted by Martin himself and other frozen splicers. Eventually, Jack kills Martin, takes a picture of his dead body, and places it on the masterpiece. Cohen grants Jack with another gift for his work. The next former disciple is Hector Rodriguez, a nitro splicer who fell out of favor with Cohen when he started to believe that art, music, and poetry was all just a grift, especially with Cohen feeding into Ryan's ideals and just telling him everything he wanted to hear. Task in hand, Jack heads to Eve's Garden, a dancing venue in Fort Frolic, to kill Rodriguez and take the picture. And he's successful in doing so, but while there, some ghosts and audio logs reveal an interesting subplot in Rapture's history. The ghost that appeared was Jasmine Jolene, an exotic dancer at Eve's Garden who was once the erstwhile mistress of Andrew Ryan. Jolene actually became pregnant by Ryan, and not knowing what to do, asked her friend Anna Culpepper for advice. Culpepper was a musician and renowned critic of both Ryan and Cohen, so sticking true to this, tells Jolene that she should become independent of Ryan. And Jolene tries to do this, but due to an audio log, Frank Fontaine finds out about this plan and instructs Tenenbaum to pay Jolene a large amount of money in exchange for Jolene's unborn baby. At this stage, it's unknown what this fetus will be used for, but being in need of money to become independent, Jolene accepted. But Jolene also became paranoid that Ryan would find out and become furious. Naturally, this very much occurred, and Jack discovers the aftermath of that encounter inside of a private room in Eve's Garden, when he's confronted with the following scene.
I thought you had forgotten about poor Jasmine, but I'm so glad you didn't. I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan. I didn't know. I didn't know Fontaine had something to do with it. What are you doing? No, don't, please. I love you, don't, please, no, no!
Please let me explain. Love me if it's the shame means your grace.
Moving on with the main plot, Jack takes a picture of Rodriguez and places it onto Cohen's masterpiece. Then, for the final disciple, we have one Silas Cobb, who used to love Cohen and thought he was a musical genius. However, Cobb too was trapped in Fort Frolic by Cohen and turned against him as a result. Cobb found a safe haven inside of Rapture Records, along with a number of other splicers, and even taunted Cohen to come find him there. This is where Jack heads to confront Cobb, but first gets caught off guard by a trap that arguably Cobb set for Cohen himself. Cobb then sends splicers after Jack and sets Rapture Records alight in the process. Eventually, Jack manages to escape, kills Cobb, and takes the final photo required. Placing that photo onto the masterpiece, the man himself, Cohen, arrives in person.
It is accomplished. Let me see it. My God. It's beautiful.
After greeting Jack and even providing him with a gene tonic as a final gift, Cohen finally allows Jack entry to the bathysphere. But with Cohen out in the open, Jack actually has the option here to kill him, which will have slight consequences on the story. Either way, Alice is finally able to contact Jack again and instructs him to head to Hephaestus. Thank you for watching this episode of BioShock The Definitive Story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Your support really does mean a lot. Also, give a big thank you in the comments below to the main contributors of The Definitive Story, who are appearing on the screen right now. They all helped immensely with the script, as did BioShock's wiki site run by Fandom, which is linked in the description below. So until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.